Hmm. Warm welcome to Judi, and thank you for reaching out and willing to explore together and to share that with all folks who are watching that video. Warm
Okay.
welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, we've known each other, so to speak, from the forum, right? From Liberation TV.
Yeah.
And let's start from there. Let me ask you what happened in the forum and how that changed your experience on a daily basis, day-to-day experience.
Yeah, I've been, what on the path, or what do we call the path, for a while. And there was a lot of, I've had many glimpses, intense glimpses before Liberation Unleashed and experiences, but there was a sense of something missing, not in an internal sense, but in the teachings I was following. It didn't, it felt incomplete. It felt there's something I'm not being taught here. Do you know what I'm saying? I was questioning it. Non-dual teaching. You're not the body. You're not your thoughts, was all going on in that teaching. But I felt, I just thought, wait, there's something not right. So I found, in a roundabout way, I found Liberation Unleashed. I first found Angelo and read his book, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes more sense to me. The process about the body work and the shadow work and the things like that. Because it felt very much like a body thing with me. That was something was being held. So then I looked at a Fresnel video, and she kept talking about, well, you have to get a guide. And I said, what is she talking about? So eventually I found the forum, and I made a request. And then someone told me about the Vince meetings on Sunday. So I attended one of those. And then I asked Vince, can you be my guide? And he was like, yep. So I started working with Vince, and it was good, because it was a process of acceptance. I felt through Vince, like, what have you got? And I felt free to say that. Whereas with other teachers, I felt very much, well, I need to toe the line here, and I didn't feel that way with Vince. So we just worked on some misconceptions that I had. Oh, sorry, the cat's jumping around, so she can't hear it, can you?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Don't worry. Yeah.
All right.
This is life
So
encoded.
yeah, so it was about clearing some misconceptions, mainly, that I had. It was really helpful.
Great.
And it was
What was the biggest misconception that you hold?
um that the things that the only work needed to be there wasn't, because there's non-doership. Then I thought, well, there's nothing to do. And that was sort of what was conveyed through the teaching I was following. I don't like to mention teachers, because great teacher, wonderful. So I don't like to mention teachers, but it was my interpretation. So yeah, just about the body work and trauma and things. Because in a sense, you have to sort of establish it. When you have trauma, for me at least, I don't have an I. but how do you look at the eye if you don't even know that you have, do you know what I'm saying? So through the kind of shadowy work, you realize, okay, there is an eye, and then you can't go through the eye if you don't even know that you have one. Does that make sense? Even though we don't really have one
Yeah,
to begin with,
yeah. There is no
there
eye.
has to be a kind of a belief in the eye to get rid of it for the eye. If there's it's just a ball of confusion, because of course there's an eye there, through conditioning and all that, the belief in the eye, but or the self. But if you don't know where it is, does that make sense?
Yeah, it
It
makes
has
sense.
to be
Totally.
found in order to be lost, sort of. So that was very encouraging for me, because I always felt stuff's in my body. There's this stuff in my body that
But
is moving me.
as if the eye is there, as if there is this feeling of an eye there locked in the body.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
but yeah. So when I looked, yeah, and that's right, because when I looked, I couldn't find an eye, but then I was feeling an eye. It was a very primal sort of thing.
Mm.
Which is still, I'm still working with that. I still work with that, but now it's more, oh, okay, the body's doing that now, and let's
Yeah,
let it do it, and it's feeling that, let it feel it. Whereas
yeah,
before it was more, no, you can't feel that. You have to meditate more or do something to stop that, which I
yeah,
don't do as much. Yeah. So it
yeah.
was really, really great. Yeah.
Mm. Sort of like the freedom is not from what's here, it's with what's here. It's
Yeah.
with what's here. I mean, felt, experienced. Freedom is not from, it's with.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 And and it's sort of all inclusive. It's all inclusive. It's not exclusive in a sense.
Mm.
You don't try to exclude things. You allow and let things, because if there's a resistance, then there's a sense of self there, that because who's resisting? If you're resisting, then
Yeah, resistance is equal. This is sense of self, seemingly sense of self.
yeah, it's
This
the same.
slash resistance.
It's almost, you could just say resistance instead of self or something,
Hmm.
but that would simplify it too much, I think. I mean, even though it is that, it's good to, yeah. So in a sense, right now I'm balancing. I'm in a balancing mode of allowing, and
Hmm.
then discovering, oh, I'm not allowing. I was like, uh, you know, it doesn't. It's like that. What was also said, which was helpful, was it. There's no outward sort of change in a sense. There's no, when you realize things, when you realize,
And yet they seem different a little bit.
yeah,
Not so little bit.
yeah. It that comes and goes as well.
Hmm.
And then I think what everyone is doing with the no self is to be in a permanent non-state, but that's,
That's not true.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
I don't know about all that.
one of the fairy tales. Yeah, that we are abiding in some kind of a state without self, with no self, so to speak. But no self is equal to a self. There is no such
Yeah,
thing as no self.
yes, this is what I've loved this, because it's sort of like that's been going on for a few weeks now,
Hmm.
intellectually, but also knowingly, like it's sort of like anytime well, here's an example, like to know the truth, and then that'll be a counter, well, how can you know the truth? And it's anytime you use words, there's going to be duality in it, what to communicate. It's because no truth means there's truth. To have no truth, you have to have something. So that's why I think it's so confounding, because there's duality in language. So I tend to like the experience more when I read something. If there's a resonance and there's not an intellectual process, so it's sort of like there's the reading, and then I tend to just go boing, and it doesn't become a concept. It just kind of goes in. Whereas when you take it conceptually, then you're usually asked, well, what does that mean? Or I wonder what that word means, or does it mean this, or does it mean that? If that's happening, then
one of the main,
it's not really,
at least in my experience, things which changed is that there is no more believing in importance of words, because words are just labels, and what is being heard, felt, or experienced is far beyond words. And if there is so much clinging into words, well, that's a sign that, there is something going on intellectually only. Because if it is heard, it doesn't matter what kind of words are there.
That was it's good you brought that up, because that was a big pointer for me. It still is, the labeling.
And what's
labeling
happening? What's happening in a daily life? How Judi moves through life? What kind of obstacles, or let's don't call them obstacles, but what's in the way of
what's happening? There's what'll arise is because I really don't have the motivation to do things in the sense of, okay, I'm gonna, I'm an artist and a writer and I do music, and I don't really want to do it. And then I go, well, maybe I do. And then I go to do it, and then I just like, I don't want to. And that's, I would say, if there's any sort of, whatever's going on in here, the battle or whatever, it's that, because it's sort of, well, what will I do if I don't do these things? And then I go, well, I'm doing what's important, which is not trying to do things, not feeling it's like it's looking at equanimity in action. Like, you do what's called to do in the moment, without labeling what it is as good or bad. So if I'm going to do the dishes, that's just as exciting as writing a song, or, do you see? Because it's not a label on that. It's just movement. So I go in and out of that, which I will, of course, again, that's like, I want this to be established and just have that, because when I have that, it's just ease and flow. So there's a bit of
what's in the way of establishing this?
There's probably still, well, there's some beliefs in there.
Interesting. Let's look some of those if you want. What kind of belief is there? Probably first I would like to ask you about that. I would call that voice. It's not a voice. It's not a thing. It's not a separate entity there, which is speaking, but some kind of voice is coming and is saying, well, if you're not doing that, then what will you do? You need to do something. You should do. Where is this voice coming from?
I've realized
who's this voice?
Well, I've realized with voices, the talking narrator, 99% of the time, it's someone else. That it's almost like it's just been recorded and someone else saying that.
Like a repetitive, like
like a recording. And when you look at the body or the function of the body, you have to get into concepts and things, but that's what it does. It's the mechanism of it is, okay, you need to record things to use that for future experiences, so a tiger or an elephant doesn't run over you, or tiger doesn't eat you. And so yeah. So that voice, so I wanted, and the thing that I'm happy with is I'm being aware of that and going, okay, it's the recording is running or whatever I want to call that, and it hopefully, or it's almost needs to wind down or something. I don't know.
Yeah, is there a power there in that strength, authority?
That's where the body work. Then the body goes into that. It'll go into that, and then I'll watch the body being doing that and going, oh yeah, da da da, to do something. So it's and I kind of looked at them more like just weather. It's like a weather situation. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, it's raining today. I didn't want it to rain. I'll go, oh well, that's fine. So it's kind of the same thing. It's it's just going, oh, okay, there's this weather going on with the body mind that it's agitated. And we can't change the weather, it's ridiculous.
No, of course not.
So that's kind of how it goes. And they can be quite intense, the stormy weather.
Nice.
Mm.
There is so much power in the storm as well.
Yeah.
So much energy.
Yeah, energy. It's the energy.
Yeah.
It's the energy, and it's I suppose it's still a separation, a feeling that I'm separate from this weather. And
how that feeling experience itself?
how does it fit? Well, I would think there's I have to go down to the basic. It's fear. It's fear. I think that's the.
What kind of fear?
It dresses up as, oh, you need to start, doing this, or you should be doing that.
Great.
And then,
great to notice that. Great catch. How fear itself, as what it came like, it came with some sensation and images. It projects something. Fear says something like, oh, watch out.
yeah, it's fear. It's fear. And it projected its fear, and it's looking for security.
Lovely observation.
And thinks that security will satisfy the fear.
Yeah. Fear actually is a good friend. It's just trying to protect. It's a protective mechanism. It's just due to best intentions, good intentions only. But what is the fear protecting? Actually, is there something which fear protects?
Well, it's sort of like having an overprotective mother or something, in the sense that it's a bit overactive in that sense. You don't really need to have it.
Yeah, what's behind that? It's showing up like that. But what's behind that? What is protecting?
What is protecting actually protecting?
Yeah.
Well,
is there something there
that needs protection?
Yeah.
That's the question. There isn't.
Yes. Exactly.
But
when fear shows up and there is this immediate identifying, probably, I don't know how to call that.
Yeah.
As if there is something which fear protects. But if the fear is allowed to be there as a sensation, just like, oh, okay. And when the fear is looked at closely, curiously, very often it's just dissolved. But we all know that.
Yeah. So it's yeah, and it's just there has to be, or it doesn't have to be, but the allowing of it to kind of do its thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
allowing doesn't require someone to allow.
Yeah.
Allowing is simply noticing that there is a tension in the body or something, a
Mm,
sensation which thoughts are labeling as fear, and just curiously dropping into that sensation. That's all.
mm.
But
Yeah, yeah.
very often, due to conditioning and old patterns, we just avoid that. We just don't want to go there because it
Mm,
feels scary. We like we are striving or not striving, just going into the direction where the images of fear are projected. So
yeah.
watch out, fear is an eye, watch out, see what may happen, and then we are running to solve what maybe is going to happen, which is of course nonsense.
Well, that's what the thought makes up stories. Oh,
Yeah,
you're feeling
and you
this
go there.
because
Yes,
you don't know what
but
so
the
and so
truth,
is going to do,
yeah,
or
but
you're
the
feeling this
yes,
because you don't know when your next gig is,
exactly,
or
exactly. But the way is in, like the way is here. True,
Mm,
in. It's in the midst of sensation. It doesn't matter if it is called fear, uh, tension, sadness, whatever.
mm, yeah. I think it's what it's helpful for me is to, because there's still a labeling going on with that. It's to get it down to the most rudimentary.
I'm curious about that labeling.
Yeah. When sensations, like just talking about the the fear sensation, or what we call a fear sensation, when I don't, if I don't label it, then not usually it dissolves it in the sense.
Exactly. And very, like, not quick, but yeah, it doesn't require a lot of time because
Yeah.
there is no feeding from thoughts, like there is no connection here
Yeah.
to feed, like thoughts feed constantly the feeling, and it's like a loop.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
this is no more, when this is cut it, and that's it.
I think also what can happen is um it does happen so quickly, the process. And in a sense, um I think that's probably why there's a some people have a practice, or other people have these other things they do, because it's sort of, you have to get used to or familiar with that process. Um, and sometimes you can get caught, like I can get caught, like, oh, and they'll go into labeling, and then it's almost like, oh, wait, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
you know. So it's yeah. And also, I what works, or I don't like to say what works or any of those things, but it's almost like you just take a step back and just rest. Do you know what I mean? And allow, it's not even allowing, it's just resting, and then like, oh yeah, okay, okay. So I forgot. So, no. So yeah, and look, and going a sense. So you know what I mean by that, like,
Can, can you repeat that? Because you just for a few seconds you frozen. The last one.
um just more observing, more observing, but not in a, it can't be like this intentional observation, like, okay, I'm gonna look at a bird or some nature, and that will It's just sort of you kind of, it's like opening a lens or something on a camera or something. And
Yeah.
like I was, there was the sensations coming up, and then there was the attempt at labeling, and then there was no labeling. And then, speaking of birds, I saw these 4 birds eating seeds, and it was just, oh, oh yeah. It just says, oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just so, it's very difficult to talk about experiences, I think, or what we call experiences, because
Yeah, and also the ease of expressing what's the experience comes with expressing. This is
yeah.
how, with everything. The more you express, the more easier it becomes.
Mm.
It feels tough and difficult because it's so new. It's new for the system. It's new, like, but
Ah,
the moment
that's very helpful, actually.
yeah, that's true.
No, really helpful,
The moment
because
we trust, so the moment there is a trust in the experience, because this is the experience, that's the only valid thing ever.
mm,
And then the ease to expressing that comes.
mm. And yeah, yeah,
There is no way to say something wrong when you talk from experience,
yeah,
because this is so, like, I mean, it's 100%, 1000% valid. It's what's
yeah,
happening.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that, because there was some kind of chat on something about truth, and I was kind of like, well, if there's truth, there's no truth. It's the language of duality. And then, but we still speak. Speaking
Yes,
is fine.
of course it's fine.
It's okay for speaking, even though that's the structure, or what we've labeled it as the structure. We put so much importance on the words
Yeah.
rather than, that's the cat.
Hey, hi, kitty. Oh, it's adorable.
She likes to be on the phone, though.
Mm.
So yeah, um,
Yeah, there is nothing wrong
yeah,
with speaking and
no,
communicating and expressing. And really, when you speak from experience, words are like something speaks beyond words.
yes, that's what I was thinking about, when I read something, and it's an experience rather than a thought. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what other beliefs are there? Can you share something? What do you discover in your day-to-day life unfolding? What,
Um,
what other beliefs? When the main belief is no more there, that the belief that Judi is separate from the rest, that there is something called Judi.
mm.
What left? What kind of other beliefs are there?
Well, they come up when they come up. Like, I think there's like residue beliefs of a doer.
Hmm, how sweet. How this how these beliefs showing up? How these beliefs shows up?
when when it's sort of, um that but the doer and the fear are sort of the same.
Yes, exactly.
It's the same.
There is a fear to see through that belief, because yeah, the belief in that there is a doer, there is someone responsible for doing. This belief feels like there is a safety ground there,
Yeah, yeah. So
and
it's
and to see through that. means that you are just, there is nothing, nowhere to stand. There is no ground. There is no stability, no foundation. It's just free fall. But
Yeah.
the good news is that there is no one that is doing the free fall. It's just free falling happening. Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was I was doing, I had to do the feather work. I started doing some feather work. But I have there's also this, to me, for me, sometimes it seems like, well, this seems like a goal. There seems like a goal here.
Exactly.
And that makes, I tend to, the experience of no goal for me is lovely. I don't know if, so it feels, and again, this is salt, but it feels like this is kind of these feather things. This is a goal, and it's disturbing my goallessness, which is crazy as well to think, do you what do you think about that? That's my question. Is that
Yeah.
what people
Yeah,
call spiritual bypassing, or is it just maybe there is no, goal. There is a goal.
Yeah, there is no goal, definitely. If there is a curiosity, why not? Knowing that this is just a tool. Fetters, what else? I don't know. Meditation, all kinds of practices, deepening, body work, shadow work, trauma
Yeah.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
these are amazing tools, amazing tools. When you
Yeah.
know, when there is this clear seeing that there is nothing more than a tool there. This is just a tool.
Yeah.
And if there is a belief that once if I reach the 10th fetter,
Yeah.
there will be everlasting peace and happiness,
Yeah.
and there will be no fear whatsoever, no
Yeah.
or whatever is there. I don't know. If there is this kind of thing, probably it's a sign that there is a
Yeah,
clean.
it's like
Usually,
the heaven
yeah,
belief we have as children. Well, if I'm a good girl, I go to heaven.
yeah, something like that.
If I do this, if I make my bed,
Of
and then I
course,
eat my oatmeal,
of
it
course, not.
feels like,
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with that.
no.
Nothing is wrong with anything, basically,
Yeah.
ultimately. But knowing that, yeah, you can play with those. Why not? Why not? I did an interview with this lovely lady for new. She invites me to do the interview.
Yeah, she's
And
amazing.
she was asking me questions about feathers, which I am familiar with some, with some not, of course. And it was a great talk because I don't have an idea here that there are feathers, and I was just sharing my experience. And yeah, the experience was matching some of the feathers or all of those, I
Yeah.
don't know, which is fine, which is perfect.
Yeah, it's holding it lightly. It's holding everything lightly. But I think it's not really holding things lightly. It's just,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And again,
it's
if there is
just,
curiosity, why not? Sure,
yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
I think and because sometimes I see the feather work and go, wow, they've done this and they've done that, and then this thing went and that thing went.
Oh, and
And
I am missing something.
yeah, and oh, that would be good if that went. And then there's ones that are like, and then this feather, you you won't have the sense of I am. And then, and I was like, but you won't have a sense of a self. And I said,
Mm.
but that's what they said the first fetter was. So,
Yeah, there is.
and this is my mind doing it, but I think you're really right. It's helpful because I did and I'm still doing some. I'm kind of just whatever comes up,
Exactly. This is what I
try,
wanted to
and then it
share from
works
my
in that.
experience. Whatever life brings, this is what needs to be looked at the moment. Not
Yeah,
needs, but this is like
something.
inevitably you are you are looking at. I mean, it's here.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's not a criticism of the fetters either.
No, not at all.
I think it's just all, like you said, it's very, even though there's no individual, it's very individual, the work. It's different for everyone, every billions of people.
Yeah,
It's different.
yeah. It depends. What is what is the conditioning, the background, of course, of course.
Yeah,
For each one is uniquely different. There is no experience which is the same with someone else. That's why it's
yeah,
not. Somehow I stopped doing these interviews while people were sharing like the first glimpses, or not
yeah,
glimpses, but the first insights when the self is seen through, because the other folks, they are watching these videos and this is not happening for them, and
yeah,
that's quite, I mean, yeah, it, it didn't felt right, so I quit doing that.
yeah,
I just stopped doing that because for each one is different, and for some it could be with a lot of laughter and a long honeymoon, or and for some the shift is very subtle,
yeah.
like almost
Missed.
you totally can miss that if you are.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's, and of course it's that's the whole, there's no separate self, but there's lots of experiences, so it's sort of it's everyone is different, even though they're not separate. And
Yeah,
that's like, of course the mind can't understand that, but okay, the mind doesn't understand it. It's, but I feel that way too sometimes. And sometimes I kind of stop looking at things like that as well,
mm-hmm.
because it's almost like you're it's almost like you're watching or looking at someone else's experience rather than looking at your own
Yeah, yeah,
experience.
exactly.
And
That
it's can be very distracting, I think.
the magic happens when we start looking what's here.
Yeah,
It's amazing to read to read books, to watch videos, to go somewhere, to attend something, I don't know, but when we
yeah,
start looking here, what's here already, this is the real deal.
yeah, yeah.
But of course, for some folks, more time apparently is needed. They need to look more videos, or to read more books, or to go to
Oh yeah.
numerous retreats, and then finally they will have a chance to look.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not saying not. It's like we basically said a while ago. Oh, why is there a call? Hold. No, I'm trying to ignore it.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. I'm not
That's okay.
here.
Um, we said that it's all what's arising. That's what is, and it's if you think, okay, today I have to do lots of yoga, or today I have to meditate all day, or today I have to, that's fine. And if you say you don't want to, it's fine. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
you can't put these constraints. No, don't watch videos. No,
of course
don't
not.
do anything.
Of course.
Do nothing or do everything.
Yeah. And also on some of those videos, people are hearing things like um, practices are useless, you cannot do anything, there is no one to do anything anyway, so there is nothing you can do. And this is so, I mean, harsh.
Yeah.
So
That was
harsh.
my frustration with the teacher.
So harsh.
But
But again, there can be a resonance there,
yeah,
and then at a certain moment, no, there this resonance is no more there, and that's also fine.
Yeah. And then of course there's teachers that say, well, I did this, I meditated for 10 years, and then I started doing this different yogas and this and that, and none of it worked. I was just sitting there one day and I realized, and I
Mm,
thought, but how do they? So they're telling the other people, just sit there and you will realize. It was like, but we don't know. There's no way
exactly.
of knowing
Exactly. We
if
don't know. Totally.
that 20 years or whatever that was
Yeah. For me,
beforehand was,
yeah, in my
it's never
experience,
it's,
yeah, exactly. In my experience, what seemingly worked was liberation unleashed. So I was compelled to look in my own direct experience. No one told me that before. I just looked and it was there. It is here.
yeah,
And this is why, due to compassion, I'm still trying to point this way. So for me,
yeah,
this is the way to look, that there is no separate self at experience. There never was someone there separate. From then on, there is just life, raw life, unfiltered, unprotected. There is nothing like to put things from life like that, and everything is. And then
yeah,
you can look those things curiously and see what comes up next.
yeah,
Because nothing is fixed, nothing is stable. There is no end. Like
yeah,
the best misconception probably is that there is an end to, I don't know, to what, to awakening, let's say.
yeah.
Once
I've made
I
it.
reach
I've
that
made it.
pet, once I reach 10th fetter, or once I don't know, I realize there is no such thing like that.
Yeah, yeah,
At least here, I don't know.
yeah,
I can speak only from experience. I cannot say on behalf of someone else. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So that's kind of my process at the moment, or if there's a process.
Mm.
I wake up if there's something there that looks like bad weather, I look at it. I may do something like make an action,
Mhm.
go for a walk, or try a fetter, or let it just happen. There's all,
Yeah,
but yeah, and just see what comes out rather than have the system, I think. But like we said, there's others that the system is what what works for them, you
exactly.
know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and also curiosity. Curiosity is a
Curiosity
place
is really the big one.
that's amazing,
That's
and also curiosity and joy, they usually go together. At least in my experience, there is just
yeah,
subtle joy and curiosity mixed.
yeah,
It was not like that. I mean, it was there was there was a period in which there was no movement at all, and eventually later I realized that that was so. When the self dropped, when the idea of a self dropped, together with that motivation dropped, what else, like the urge to do things, to,
yeah,
and this is okay, but what left, like what holding back this experience is inertia, and
yeah,
suppressed things, so suppressed stuff. So of course it's okay to do nothing, of course it's fine. Just I would like to share that it's good to be curious, because this is not meant to lay on the couch for a whole day.
yeah, yeah.
There is a life energy, life force, which wants to move, dance, uh, paint, cook, whatever, which wants
The
to
curiosity
create.
is
Yeah.
curiosity is joy to me.
Mhm.
It's it's everything in a sense, because that's if there's there has to it's a weird thing, like there's the curiosity there's an engagement happening, but there's
Mhm.
no there's no there's no wanting and what's that? There's no expectation,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Like
And even
kids,
yeah,
kids don't have expectations when they start playing. They just go for the sake of game. Not they're not
yeah,
expecting anything to happen.
yeah. So I think there's there's inertia. There was inertia. It and there's an impatience going on
Hmm.
because I'm still seeing the inertia at times. Inertia is a good word.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I use the tools. There's tools to get into curiosity, kind of.
Yeah.
And that's when it's like, oh, yeah. So does that make sense? That,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. No, curiosity is.
Mhm.
It's a word I like. Or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Because
think yeah,
it,
we can have a little more chat, let's say a few minutes we have. Maybe you would like to share something about what? Yeah, basically when the illusion of the separate self is seen through,
yeah,
this is not the end.
no, there's no cookie. There's not a cookie at the, you
Yes,
don't get a cookie and a glass
people
of milk.
some folks will be disappointed. Some folks
Yeah,
just will be so disappointed, and disappointment is also a great, great, great pointer. It's again an invitation to look. What are you
yeah,
expecting? What do you expect to happen?
yeah. I was just thinking, I had a thought. It's like the sages used to keep everything so secret and make people go through steps and things and this and that and telling everyone how difficult it was. And in a sense, I can see why they did that in a
Yeah,
way.
so do I.
I
Yeah,
can see why they did that because, yeah, you
yeah.
know,
What comes here is I read somewhere about the concept of the gateless gate, which is used in the forum.
yeah,
There is this seemingly crossing the gateless gate. So there is no such thing as gateless gate. Gateless gate again is a concept, useful
yeah,
one. So I read somewhere that some sages, master, I don't know where, somewhere in East,
mm,
they made up that, invent that due to compassion for the students, for the seekers, to have that, for example, a seeker which is seeking something to happen, and to have a seemingly gate which can
yeah,
cross, which can cross.
yeah,
So there is no gate as gate. It is like here before the gate and after the gate. It's the same.
yeah,
Just this is a. I'm just so thrilled by that compassion because it's because of the seeker to
yeah.
calm down its seeking mind, just to know that there is something that he will or he
But
is crossing,
in
and then if when he crossed the seeming gate and when he turned to sin,
it's compassion, but it's also a truth because it's existent, non-existent. It's that thing that
yeah,
turns our heads and
yeah,
makes us think is the duality and the so as soon as you see it's neither, and the only way you can say it's neither is to say gateless gate,
yeah,
uh truth, no truth, uh truth
yeah,
lie, whatever. That's the only way.
yeah.
So yeah.
Mm.
And also to say that it's difficult and there's stages too, because people would leave their families and their children and so they'd say, no, you don't have to, then the newer teachers like Nisargadatta or the later teachers were like, no, no, don't leave your families. Don't just, it's not that, and they started loosening it up and saying it's more direct than that. It's not, you know, you don't. So it's just, it's interesting,
Yeah,
but it's all just blah, 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 but it's really,
yeah,
it's fun. I love it. But
yeah.
yeah.
Life full on with everything.
So now where are you now? Before you were at the beach and now you're in a
Uh,
forest.
yes. Oh no, I'm in the park. We came back 2 days ago actually. We were in Greece for one
Oh
month.
yeah, lovely.
We hosted a retreat there. It was amazing. Also in person.
Oh
I mean. Yeah. And we are in Sofia in Bulgaria. We're back in Bulgaria for two, three
yeah,
weeks.
yeah,
And then again we will travel a little bit and I'm in the park, in beautiful park in the city.
yeah, yeah, lovely. Yeah,
Hmm. It was so lovely to reflect with you, Judy.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you for willing to do.
Oh yeah. Well, you can always, there's always more to see and learn
Hmm.
and hear and,
Hmm.
you know, thank you.
Thank you and stay in touch and we'll see.
Yeah, I have to go to some of your meetups that you
Oh,
have.
you are most welcome to join. Usually on Thursday, probably not this Thursday, the next one. I
Okay.
guess so.
Yeah, I'll try to be there.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, and we are doing that not because we need to do that, but just because we want to do that. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
always an impulse, and it's happening. And while this impulse is there, it will still happening, and then it's not, and that's also will be okay.
It goes back to what we talked about earlier is the doer thing and me thinking I have to do this, da, da, da.
No,
And
not at all.
one thing I realized was, well, you don't really want to do it. So what's the problem? And I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to. So what is telling me I need to do this? So yeah.
Yeah, this voice is not true. Like it's using the recordings.
Yeah. So
It's
yeah.
it's not authentic.
Yeah.
Authenticity comes from here.
Yeah.
How this wants to move, wants to express.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
I'm going to stop the recording.